Hello everybody. Today we're going to work on our hips, and one of the really good things about the way I sit like this every time we start the class, and I don't know if you're doing that yet, but you don't need to, but it's really handy because I'm hip opening already. You can see if you're sitting like me, you can see that you're stretching your inner thighs, you're opening up your groin, so everything about this position is good for you. So I want you to think a little bit about your hip joints first before we get into what we're going to do with our movements. So the hip is a ball and socket joint, just like the shoulder, but very much more stable. So most Irish people, there may be other people rather than Irish people, other nationalities looking at this, but Irish people tend in general to have very deep ball and socket joints, and it makes us very stable. Like we've made good cyclists, we continue to make good cyclists, we're good climbers, good runners, but we're not particularly good at opening out wide. And this is something I want you to remember, that you work with the hips you have. People can have very different, although the general structure of our hip joints are the same, people can have the head of the femur set at a slightly different angle, which may, sort of orientate their hips out that way. They may have a really deep ball and socket joint, which makes it very stable, but the hips don't open too wide. So don't be fussed if your hips don't open wide. Just work with what you've got. And that applies to every other thing we do in these little classes. You work with the joy of what you've got, as opposed to looking for something that, that we see constantly, displayed to us of these fantastically open hips, fantastically, sort of mobile bodies. You work with what you've got. Make the best of everything that you have. And that's what this little set of videos is about. You trying to work with what you have and the way your body is made and making the best of it, like we should. Okay, so the hip joints then. So we're going to begin lying on our mats, or lying on your rug or whatever you've got there with you. So if you're sitting on your bolster, just push your bolster out of the way. And as always, when we're going to transition from one position to another, you're going to use specific muscles to do that. And I would always use going from here to lying down to warm up my abdominal muscles. I'm going to tuck my chin to my chest, always tucking your chin to your chest. So you're rounding down your spine. You're not hinging, you're rounding down. So I tuck my chin to my chest, I pull my tummy in as I go, and I come to lie down on my mat. So when you lie down on your mat, I'm going to shift myself a little bit further forward. I'm going to hug my right knee into my right shoulder. Now, we've done this move before in our when we were looking at our hip flexors. This time, we're not going to be warming up the hamstrings. We're going to be working with our hips. So I want you to bend your left knee, drop your right ankle over the top of your left knee. And I want you to flex that foot. So take the toes towards the shins. From here, I want you to take your right hand and place it to the inside of your right thigh. And I want you to move in and out here. So pressing your thigh away, releasing it, pressing it away and releasing it, pressing it away and releasing it. And that's just a way of warming it up, mobilizing through the hip. You're going to take your hand then and try and push it away until you get your elbow straight. So you may not get your elbow straight. I just want you to push it away until you feel a really deep stretch. And that's plenty. Being able to push it away may have to do with the length of your arms. If you have big, long arms, then of course you're not going to be able to do that. So again, opening up the hips. This is a gentle opener for the hips. From here, I want you to hold on behind your left thigh and bring your left thigh towards your left shoulder. I'm using my right elbow to push away my right thigh. And I still have my right foot flexed because you don't want to, strain your knee. And this is a pigeon pose, a reclined pigeon pose. And then release your left foot down to the mat. I want you to place your right arm out at shoulder level, palm facing down. Take your left hand to the outside of your right thigh and bring your legs across your body. So I'm taking my legs to the left, my arm is to the right, and I'm using my left hand to stretch that outside of that right leg even further. So I'm getting a really deep stretch on the outside of my right thigh and all the way down the IT band. That's that big, thick band that runs from the outside of your hip to your knee. You're going to hold that for a couple of seconds And then you're going to take your legs back into the center. This time you're going to place your left arm out at shoulder level, palm down, and take your right hand to the inside of your right thigh. And you're going to bring your legs across the other way. Now this time you have the added advantage of having your right foot on top of your left thigh. And you can use the weight of that leg to stretch the outside of your left thigh. You can use your right hand as well just to push down a little further. And then you can come all the way back to the center. Then you can drop your right foot down and hug your left knee into your left shoulder. So get that in nice and tight first, so you get that nice feeling of compression there. Then I want you to cross your left ankle over the top of your right thigh, and then take your left hand and push that thigh away from you. So really getting into the joint. You can actually feel that you're doing the joint good here. And then when you get to where you think you've got a really nice stretch, never going too far with any of these moves, but get to the place where you feel like this is a really good, healthy stretch for me. And then you're going to hold it for a couple of seconds. When you're doing this yourself, you can spend more time at it. I'm doing this very quickly. If I was doing it myself, and I do this series every single day, looking after my hips, I would hold it, depending on how much time I had, I might hold it for a count of 10, each of those moves for about a count of 10. Then I'm going to hold on behind my thigh and bring my right thigh towards my right shoulder. You know, if you feel like it, you can rotate that right ankle as well, always making the maximum use of the moves you do. I have my left elbow pushed into the inside of my left thigh just to get that knee out a little further. I'm going to drop my right foot down to the mat, take my left hand out shoulder level, that's 90 degrees, palm to the mat, right hand to the outside of my left thigh, and I'm going to stretch my body over. And you're getting that lovely lower body stretch here. You're also twisting through your abdominal organs, nice little bit of work on your metabolism as well. A detoxing kind of move. And then on your inhale, coming all the way back to the center. This time, right arm out at shoulder level, left palm to the inside of your left thigh, and you're going to rotate your legs to the left. I like to hold this particular position, like these twisted positions, much longer than I do some of the others. And then come all the way back into the center. I want you to drop your left leg down to the mat. And from here, I want you to place both hands on your tummy and gently rock your knees side to side. So this little move is really, really good. It does all kinds of interesting things for your lower body. So maybe first thing in the morning when you wake up, it might be a nice thing to do, you know, either slip out over the covers or, you know, maybe out onto the floor and just rock your knees side to side. So it's going to warm up that whole lower body section, really make you feel that your body is capable of moving. So rather than hopping out of bed and, you know, starting your day, just do a little mobility work before you do that. And then you're going to rest your legs back to the center. I'm going to do a little move now that we called happy baby, right? I'm not sure how happy it is, but in yoga we call it happy baby. So you're going to take both legs up, knees are bent, and you're going to put your arms inside your thighs. And then you're either going to hold on to your ankles or hold on to the outsides of your feet. And you're going to press your inner arms into your inner thighs. Now, there's a secret to this one, you know, in terms of the way you have your back. So you keep your shoulders on the mat and you keep your lower back on the mat. And this feels really good. So you can, when you get used to this, you can push away with your feet and pull down with your hands. So you get a really good isometric stretch. And this is pure hip opener. And then to release it, you're going to take your feet up to the ceiling, flex your toes back towards you, place your hands onto your tummy, and just drop your legs out wide. Amazing hip opener. What's working here then, you can feel how the hips are opening laterally. It's the pull of gravity and the weight of your legs. That's what's doing the work here. The secret to this particular pose is for you to let go and let the stretch happen. So don't try to push your legs away. Just try to relax them. Just let them. And you can hold this for as long as you like. It's a good idea sometimes in the evenings when you come home and if you've had a really busy, stressful day, to put your the backs of your glutes right up against the wall and support your legs on the wall in this position. And you can hold it for 10 or 15 minutes. But the one thing to be aware of is when you try to bring your legs back together, it's not always that easy. So I would always suggest that you take your hands to the outside of your thighs and you use your hands to bring your legs back in together. Then we're going to bend our knees and put your feet on the mat. So I want to take us around to the front now. So one of the easiest ways of doing that is to roll over, press your left palm into the mat and take yourself up. And we're going to switch around here and come on to all fours. So another simple hip opener here. So we're stacked here. So elbows, wrists and shoulders in line. Knees are hip width apart, tops of your feet on the mat. And I'm just going to lift your right leg up and rotate your knee. And then take it in the opposite direction. And hip mobility work again. And then do it in the opposite way. And then take it in back. And from here, we're going to come into a posed or a position or a seating position that you can use on a regular basis. And it's something I would recommend that you try and do almost every day. And that is, let's start standing for this one. Remember, try and stand up without using your hands. So my feet are a little wider than hip width apart. Actually, hip width apart is, most people think that their hips are wider than they actually are. So when we think of hip width apart, we're thinking of hips, knees and ankles in the same line. So one of the best ways of judging that is to take the big toe of your right foot to the instep of your left and then just open it out. And for most people that corresponds to about hip width apart. So when I'm coming down into a squat, I like to take my feet a little further apart. And because I want my knees to track over my ankles, I'm going to have them turned out to the side. I don't like to go too far, but you find what feels comfortable for you. And then we're just going to sink down. And this is a squat. Now, if your heels are up off the mat, I think it's a good idea to support them. So to come out of it. So I would either use something like a block or a book or something like that, or seeing as I have the bolster here, why not use that? So I would put my heels up on the bolster and sit down and resist the temptation to just sit on the bolster because that kind of takes the good out of it. So if your heels are on the mat, means you've got really good dorsiflexion. And when you're here, so try not to sink into it. You're trying to keep a little buoyant and you're trying to keep your back upright. So you're not coming down in here and hunching your spine. You're going to try to stay upright in the pose. And then one of the really nice things to do coming out of this to strengthen your ankles and your thighs and your glute muscles is just to lift right up out of it yourself. And then two more things to do very briefly. So in the same position, maybe take your hands to your heart or maybe take your hands to your waist. Maybe to your waist is nice. And then when you come down, we're just going to come down into a squat and lift up out of it. So when you come down, you want to think about taking your knees apart. And then when you come up, you allow them to come back in. Coming down, open them out. And coming down, and then opening them out. Very simple little moves. Maybe I've just two other little easy things to do. So if you're standing with your feet hip width apart or a little wider again, you can just roll your hips. Simple, simple thing. Just roll them backwards and forwards. Really easy. And then one last thing. If you're standing idly in the kitchen, put your hand on the wall, take your knee up and just rotate your hips in one direction and then rotate them in the other. And then you're just going to take it to the opposite side and just do the same. And apologies for turning my back on you, but just to show you what's happening in the hip joint at the other side. And let's finish off in a squat. Okay, so this is something that I would recommend that you do. So say you're sitting on the couch, watching whatever on TV or reading or something like that. Just slip off it every so often and see, can you actually come down into this position? And can you hold it for a little bit? And can you sort of, lift your body up and out of it? And then maybe you're leaving this pose, then try to push into your feet. And as you push into your feet, just lift yourself all the way up. So I'm going to finish standing today, and so taking care of your hips is such an important part of everything that we're doing in our sequence here. And so what I would suggest is that you do simple things with your hips. Rocking your hips in the morning, maybe just something as simple as that. Squat maybe once or twice a day. And just keep them mobile, keep the lovely gift of the ability of what they can do. Just keep it fresh as you go through your days and your weeks. So until next time, be good and take care of yourselves.